With Yuki debuting as one of the first major AoE focused banner characters in Chaos Zero Nightmare, there's been a lot of discussions surrounding how she performs, how much damage she can output, what her epiphanies actually do, and whether she's worth building early. As a high tempo DPS who thrives on card cycling and cost efficiency, Yuki plays like a lot of the current roster, but this time with a focus on hitting multiple enemies. With this, before we get started, don't forget to drop a like, comment, and subscribe. But with this out of the way, let's go over everything you need to know about Yuki, one of Chaos Zero Nightmare's strongest and most flexible burst AoE DPS. Now let's break down her cards, starting with Prepare to Subdue. This is a skill card that allows you to draw one of the unit's attack cards, and you'll gain 20% damage to the card for one turn. In terms of epiphanies, the fourth stood out to me specifically as it allows you to draw another attack card if you activate the inspiration cost first. But next we have Flash Slash, which is an attack skill that deals 180% damage to all enemies, with its inspiration reducing the cost of said card by 1. Notably, from the epiphany list, the first epiphany will increase the AoE damage with a -1 cost, the second epiphany will lower AP cost again, the third will convert the attack to a high damage single target, and with the fifth epiphany this will add even more damage but at a higher cost. Next we have Trickery Strike, and this is an attack that has Retain on it, deals 150% damage, and will activate inspiration to one random card in your hand. With this, the epiphanies that I felt stood out include the epiphany that allow you to activate all inspiration for all cards of the unit in hand, alongside the fourth epiphany, which is a 180% damage, draw one card that has an inspiration effect. Finally, the fifth epiphany is also noteworthy as it's a 312% damage ability, with the inspiration cost reducing it by 1, making all of her epiphanies and even the base card pretty good. Next we have Freezing Blade, and this is an upgrade card which reads, when using own card with an activated inspiration effect, deals 60% damage to all allies. Now what's important to note here is that pretty much all of the epiphanies here are pretty good, but I personally believe that a 0 cost that activates and does 60% damage to all enemies if you've used an inspiration is actually pretty insane. Next we have Iceberg Cleave, which is a pretty decent amount of damage, but beyond this we also have her ego skill, which I actually think is absolutely insane. This does 300 AoE base damage and moves all attack cards to the top of the draw pile, and for each card that was moved you gain 50% damage to said ability. Despite this costing 5 ego, I actually find this to be maybe one of the most insane parts of her kit, and I'm personally really excited to see how this performs. Now let's move to build. In terms of sets, you have access to combinations like 4-piece Bullet of Order and any combo of DPS sets, including 2-piece Blackwing or Executioner's Tool, but as usual there is also good value to running a 2-2-2 setup with 2-set Executioners, 2-set Blackwing, and 2-set Scarab as well. As for main stats, you'll ideally be looking for order damage percent and following this attack percent, but in terms of substats you'll ideally also be focusing on crit rate, crit damage, and attack percent too. In terms of stat target, you're looking for roughly 60 crit rate and 120 crit damage for consistent scaling. But regarding gear and weapons, since there's going to be a lot of changes with the new Forbidden Catalyst update, there's a fair chance that Yuki's best in slot gear weapon will come from this instead. In the meantime though, some reliable and decent weapons are still available, including Gastronomicon, Obsidian Sword, and more common weapons that aren't too difficult to fish for. But as a side note to this, there's obviously better weapons that you can fish for. This is just what's been more reliable to farm for in a run. Trinkets wise, the previously mentioned weapon tip applies here too. And as a result, in the meantime, using something like a Morpheus Cube, Quantum Collector, or the more OP unique trinket Revelations of Futility if you can find it, will also work great too. Regarding partners, her signature is pretty insane as the increased damage can be clutch for clearing multi-enemy waves in one go, but as an added bonus, do keep in mind that saving your hand and adding it to the top of your deck is also crazy value instead of having them be discarded. Alternatively, however, Ritochka, Scarlet, and Lillian, if you can reduce the cost of Yuki's cards, can also be quite insane, though this will ultimately come down to what you have RNG wise, as partners do feel slightly more limited and uncommon in CZN. Teams wise, Yuki will work best with partners who obviously provide AP, draw consistency, or provide defensive retain effects, but she will also synergize quite well with characters like Rei or Mika specifically as they have good cycling, free AP, healing, and low costs. Defensive characters like Calipe and Maribel will also be fine for content like Chaos Manifestation runs where stress and damage can be an issue. But ideally, of course, you'll likely end up using her with someone like Veronica, even flex characters like Cassius or Beryl. So with this, pretty much using any support or any character that allows you to card draw, search through your library, or support your characters will definitely end up working with someone like Yuki. Ego-wise, though, most of them are solid and will offer great benefit. Her E2 specifically seems pretty powerful, as it then allows all cards to immediately gain their bonus inspiration effect. But as usual, this isn't absolutely mandatory, though it will definitely make farming and going through something like Chaos Manifestation substantially easier. Now let's move to her pros and cons, starting with her pros. She's definitely one of the best AoE damage dealers with an incredibly flexible epiphany path, and overall in terms of her playstyle, she is pretty cost efficient with strong draw mechanics. On top of this, she's also capable of switching between AoE and technically single target if you swap into it. But finally, I think her greatest strength is her ego skill, which is really crazy, especially once you optimize it. In terms of cons, however, her AP may feel a bit higher cost, especially before you get the cost reduction epiphanies. And with this, depending on the lineup or save data, it can definitely feel as though she has dead turns and isn't just a one-size-fits-all character, though this is something that is shared by a lot of characters. At the end of the day though, Yuki is one of Chaos Zero Nightmare's most interesting DPS, as she's versatile, very burst heavy, and incredibly rewarding to master. Her ability to adapt to pretty much any sort of encounter, whether single target or multi-target, through her epiphanies makes her look solid even at a base, regardless if you're using her for zero system runs, farming runs, or for the weekly endgame content. Anyways, that's all for now. Thanks again for watching, stay safe, stay healthy, good night.